since I'm here to do a recap of Tough Episode 2, Season 9. It's also probably the last you'll see of the beard for a bit. It is going to be slowly coming off today and tomorrow. Why 2 days? Because it's really bad. It's really a lot of razor burn to do it in one day. Anyways, so we of course have the Foundations of Team USA being done today, which is weird. So I'm looking at the roster. There are 2 fighters on the roster that apparently weren't on the show. Ryan Bigler, who it may have been on there, but you know, they kept referring to someone as Berger instead of Bigler, and we thought it looked like Steve Berger when we were watching the show on Skype, and that's who we thought it was, but Steve Berger's not on the list. The other one is, there's apparently someone named Josh Schroeder. Again, no one with that name. There was a dude named Shackelford who's not on the list, aka the dude who had herpes. Possibly some late replacements, I don't know. But anyways, neither made the show, so it really doesn't matter. So here we go. We'll start with looking at the welterweights. We of course lost one of them, Christian Fulgrim, who could not make weight and quit. And Dana White did not like that, and it was quite obvious that Christian Fulgrim's burned a lot of bridges. We also had one of the other ones, Jason Pierce, faint. So in the 3 fights that we got to see, because we only got to see 3 because of Christian Fulgrim pulling out, we saw Ray Elby versus Demarcus Johnson. Demarcus Johnson basically, you know, taking down Ray Elby. Or actually it was Ray Elby trying to take him down, and he reversed it after we had a kind of cool looking striking match. And then basically Demarcus Johnson proceeded to beat the crap out of Ray Elby. Demarcus Johnson, he trains with Jeremy Horn. I like his chances. He's also a former military guy, which means, you know, always going to be cheering for that kind of person. He's 13-6, but he's one of the more accomplished guys on the show, which is good. Which was good to see him finish. I mean, Ray Elby is also pretty accomplished, but it's accomplished in a bad way. Additionally, we had the Berger or Ryan Bigler fight against Jason Pierce, who had fainted. Jason Pierce basically winning kind of a boring unanimous decision. He showed the ability to take people down, but he didn't do a lot after that. Not that Berger slash Bigler really showed me much more, so whatever. We also had finally Mark Miller versus Kevin Knapshin. I've always heard his name said Nabanian, but he said Knapshin, so I'm going to go with his pronunciation. I did not like this fight. And there are 2 reasons. A, they're training partners at either Hell House or the Midwest Combat Center. It's one of those weird ones where the 2 gyms are kind of like the same one, but at the same time not. So I don't know. They're listed differently on SureDog anyways. That, and these were 2 of the more, not so much skilled, but, how do I say this? You know, they had kind of, on paper, they were kind of the best. Both could kind of strike. Both had weaknesses. Nabanian's was, or Knapshin's was kind of, you know, he didn't have the greatest striking, but he could strike. It was okay. Miller's was takedown defense, and if you remember Miller from the IFL, you remember people could take him down and control him, and they would win. But his striking was very good, and his grappling was actually pretty good as well. In this fight, Miller kind of dominated outside of one moment where a good Knapshin landed a good 1-2 and sent him to the mat, but could not finish him. But anyways, Miller TKOs him. And it was just, they do this every season when they make I don't know if it's randomly assigned opponents or what, but they always take 2 guys who on paper should probably make the show and face each other. Like last season, it would have been Kyle Kingsbury and Ryan Bader, and also Efren Escudero versus Ido Parenti was another one from that season. And there were probably some more that I'm just not thinking of. And you had also, oh yeah, Elliot Marshall versus Conor Grigorian. That's another one. And then, the season before that, you had Steve Burns fight Amir Sadala. You had Gerald Harris fight Mike Morello, who were 2 of the more standouts on paper. Again, so I don't know. Maybe it's just honestly random, but maybe they shouldn't do that then. And then Kyle Reed did not get to fight. He will be fighting Frank Lester, who is a late replacement for Christian Fulgrim. Frank Lester has fought all over the place, it seems. You look at his fight finder, there's heavyweights on that list, so I'm kind of thinking, I've never seen him fight, but he could be kind of a Richie Hightower or Josh Haynes type, you know, fatty that's kind of slimming down to lower weight classes where he belongs. I don't know, but, you know, something may be made of that. Anyways, we have the lightweight side of things. Paul Byrd versus Richie Whitson, who's apparently one of Dan Henderson's boys, but a very recent addition. Richie Whitson looked pretty good in this fight. I mean, outside of a triangle attempt by Paul Byrd didn't really show me much. Richie Whitson wins. Looks like the Shaun White of MMA, which is kind of cool. And anyways, that's good. And of course, he had Shackelford in this weight class. Couldn't fight because of a herpes lesion on his brow, and that's contagious, obviously. Santino DeFranco, he was a kind of a nice story. He was fighting Waylon Lowe. He, of course, was supposed to apparently be on season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, which I think he was supposed to be on there instead of Luke Kumo, is my guess. Because if I recall correctly, Dana White said something about Luke Kumo being kind of specifically recruited versus being at the tryouts. So I'm thinking maybe it was Luke they brought in to replace him. But I don't know. And no one else seemed to know either. But anyway, Santino got taken down, got absolutely pummeled. Holy moly. He was getting killed. That fight really should have been stopped. It really should have. But he comes out in the second round, hits Waylon Lowe with a flying knee, and then gets the rear naked choke. I don't know what to say. Showed heart. He showed some skills, but God, if he wilts under pressure like that again, there will be problems. Cameron Dollar versus Tom Hayden. Tom Hayden was in utter control of this fight. He's a George Gurgel student. He was pounding away at Cameron Dollar, but Dollar slips out the back door and then proceed to rear naked choke him. He's a member of Fight Factory in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They have had Corey Hill, of course, although he's no longer there, and Noah Thomas, who's, you know, side note, this is showing the guys after Ultimate Fighter can really improve, and Marcus Davis is another one, is that Noah Thomas is actually like a top 10 bantamweight in North America. I mean, he's gone down 2 weight classes, but he's gotten a lot better. Anyways, we get Cameron Dollar going into the house with a rear naked choke. He's a tall guy, but he looks like he's seriously lacking in wrestling. Looks like he has some personality though, so I'm kind of happy he's in the house. And we will see how he proceeds to do. That was all the fights we had at lightweight, because Jason Dent didn't get to fight, who is the lone UFC veteran on this show. If that was not Steve Berger. Because I'm pretty sure Steve Berger has fought in the UFC before. I could be wrong, no. And he will be fighting Rob Browning. I don't know why Rob Browning's on the show. He's the younger brother of Junie. And the thing is, the younger brother tends to be worse than the older brother, if anything. And that's not a good sign to bring him in. And they say, you know, you can't, you know, fault him for the sins of Junie. But you know what? They're looking for another Junie Browning. That's all there is to it, because Rob Browning has no fights. And usually fights at bantamweight in amateur fights. So it's bullshit to bring him on here unless you're looking for another Junie Browning. So Dana White, stop with the bullshit, man. That would be, you know, good. He's fighting Jason Dent. Looks like he makes an ass of himself in the house, and I'm hoping he loses. Just because you have Jason Dent, I think, is one of the better lightweights just by looking at the show so far, and I want to see him in the house. I mean, if Rob Browning can beat him, then he probably also deserves in the house. But then again, that's another one of those ones I don't really want to see that fight then. I want to see them both on Team USA. But anyways, that's all I have to say on the matter. As to quick preview, best welterweights are probably Mark Miller and DeMarcus Johnson. I think they're better than anything that's on Team UK, but I think we'll have to see, obviously. At lightweight, your best bets are, if he makes it in, Jason Dent. And, you know, I was really not all really impressed in any of the other 3. Santino DeFranco didn't really impress me. Neither did Cameron Dollar, and neither did who was the other guy that got in the house? Richie Whitson. They all showed me some things, but they're all guys who really have a lot of things to work on, and we'll see. And I think they'll all get eaten alive by Jeff Lawson. Go, Jeff! Later.